The words left my mouth before my brain could stop them. I stood in the crystal throne room of the Valori Empire, surrounded by guards whose armor gleamed like liquid mercury, and I had just told Princess Cyrillith that her chest was impressive. The translator implant in my skull had betrayed me in the worst possible way. What I had meant to say was that the ceremonial chestplate she wore, an intricate piece of metalwork depicting the entire history of her dynasty, was a masterpiece of craftsmanship. What the translator decided to convey was something else entirely. The silence that followed could have crushed diamonds. Princess Cyrillith rose from her throne. She stood nearly 7 feet tall, her skin the color of deep twilight, her eyes burning like twin supernovas. The Valori were beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful, elegant, deadly, and utterly without mercy. "Human," she said, and her voice carried the weight of a collapsing star. "Do you understand what you have just declared?" I didn't. I absolutely didn't. But the way every guard in the room had drawn their weapons suggested it wasn't good. "Your Highness, I believe there's been a translation error." Silence. She descended the steps of her throne with the grace of falling water. Each footfall echoed through the chamber like a death knell. The guards parted before her, their faces masks of barely contained fury. I was Ambassador Marcus Cole, first human representative to the Valori Empire, sent to negotiate a mining treaty that would secure Earth's energy independence for the next century. I had spent 3 years learning their customs, their history, their 14 different forms of formal address. I had memorized the precise angles of bowing, the exact duration of eye contact permitted with each rank of nobility. And in one moment, one catastrophic malfunction of technology, I had apparently committed an offense worthy of execution. The princess stopped directly in front of me. She was close enough that I could smell her, something like ozone and night-blooming flowers. Her eyes searched my face with an intensity that made my skin prickle. "You spoke the words of claiming," she said, "in my father's throne room, before the entire court. The words of—" I felt the blood drain from my face. "Your Highness, I was commenting on your armor. The chest plate, the craftsmanship. The translator does not make such errors." Her voice was ice. "It reads intent, not words." That stopped me cold. The Valori translators were legendary, organic technology that interfaced directly with neural pathways. They didn't just translate language. They translated meaning, emotion, the truth beneath the words. "Which meant, I see you begin to understand," the princess said. "Your surface thoughts spoke of armor. But beneath that," she tilted her head, studying me like a scientist examining a new specimen. "Beneath that, your intentions were far more honest." My throat went dry. I thought of the first moment I had seen her, the way she had entered the throne room like a force of nature, commanding and magnificent. I thought of the unconscious admiration that had flickered through my mind, quickly suppressed beneath layers of diplomatic professionalism. The translator had found those thoughts, and it had broadcast them. "Among my people," the princess continued, "the words of claiming are sacred. They are spoken once in a lifetime. They cannot be retracted." She paused. "And they must be answered." "Answered how?" The princess smiled, and it was the smile of a predator that had cornered its prey. "With blood," she said. "Or with binding." The guards closed in around us, forming a perfect circle. There was no escape, no diplomatic immunity that could save me now. I had stumbled into something ancient and inviolable, and I would face the consequences. "You have until dawn to choose," the princess said. "D by the blade, Ambassador Cole, or become mine." She turned and ascended back to her throne, leaving me standing in a prison of my own making, wondering how a compliment about metalwork had become a proposal of marriage, and which option terrified me more. They gave me a room. It was luxurious by any standard: silk hangings, a bed that could fit 6 humans comfortably, a balcony overlooking gardens that glowed with bioluminescent flora. It was also, unmistakably, a cell. The doors were sealed with energy barriers. Guards stood at every entrance. And somewhere in the palace, diplomats from Earth were frantically trying to reach me, their communications blocked by Velorori protocol. I had committed a crime of honor. Until it was resolved, I belonged to no nation but this one. I stood on the balcony, watching the 3 moons of Valor rise over the horizon, and tried to think my way out of an impossible situation. Death was unacceptable. Not just for personal reasons, though I was rather attached to being alive, but because my death would destroy any hope of relations between humanity and the Valori Empire. They would see it as proof that humans couldn't be trusted, that we were too crude, too careless to interact with civilized species. But binding? Marriage to a woman I'd met hours ago? A princess of an alien empire, whose customs I barely understood. A knock at the door, 3 precise taps. "Enter," I said, though I suspected I had no choice in the matter. The door shimmered, and a Valori woman stepped through. She was shorter than the princess, her skin a lighter shade of purple, her robes marking her as some kind of servant or attendant. She carried a tray of food and a small box. "The princess sends sustenance," she said. "And a gift? A gift?" The attendant set the tray on a nearby table and opened the box. Inside, resting on velvet darker than space, was a pendant. A perfect sphere of captured light that pulsed with a gentle rhythm. "A heartstone," the attendant explained. "It beats in time with its giver. The princess had it made when she was young, waiting for the day she would find her claim." I stared at the pendant. "She's had this prepared? For how long?" 40 cycles. "By your counting, perhaps 30 of your years." 30 years. The princess had been waiting 30 years for someone to speak the words of claiming to her, and instead of a noble Valori warrior or a prince from a neighboring system, she had gotten a confused human diplomat who didn't even know what he was saying. I almost laughed. Almost. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. The attendant's expression shifted. Something complicated passed across her features. "Because you should understand what you have been offered, human. The princess could have demanded your death immediately. It is her right. The words of claiming, spoken without intent to honor them, is one of our highest offenses. But she didn't. No, oh. She gave you a choice." The attendant moved toward the door. "In 200 years, she is the first of the royal line to do so. She left me alone with the heartstone, its gentle pulse filling the silence of my prison." I picked it up carefully. It was warm against my palm, and I could feel its rhythm. Steady, strong, patient. Was this truly what the princess felt? Was there, beneath her terrifying composure, something that had been waiting? The door shimmered again. This time, the princess herself entered. She had changed from her ceremonial armor into something simpler, a flowing gown of deep crimson that made her look less like a warrior and more like what she was, a woman. Young by her people's standards. Uncertain, though she hid it well. "You found the heartstone," she said. "Your attendant explained it to me." I held it up to the light. 30 years is a long time to wait, for your species perhaps. She moved to the balcony, standing beside me but maintaining a careful distance. "For mine, it is the blink of an eye. We live for millennia, Ambassador Cole. We learn patience early. And yet, you gave me until dawn. That seems impatient." A ghost of a smile crossed her lips. "Perhaps I have been waiting long enough." We stood in silence, watching the moons trace their paths across the sky. The tension between us was a living thing, charged, unpredictable. "I didn't mean to insult you," I said finally. "When I spoke in the throne room, I truly thought I was complimenting your armor." I know. She turned to face me, and in the moonlight, her eyes seemed less like burning stars and more like deep wells of contained emotion. That is what makes this complicated. The translator reads truth, Ambassador. If you had spoken with intent to deceive, to mock, I would have known. Your death would have been immediate. So you believe me. I believe your surface thoughts were honest. You did not know our customs. You did not mean to speak the words. She paused, but the translator also reads what lies beneath. And beneath your confusion, beneath your diplomatic training, there was recognition. My heart hammered against my ribs. Recognition, you saw me. Not as a princess to be negotiated with. Not as an alien to be studied. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. You saw me as magnificent. I couldn't deny it. I had thought exactly that, in the moment before everything went wrong. She had entered that throne room and something in me had responded to her presence like a compass needle finding north. That doesn't mean I intended to claim you, I said. Admiration isn't the same as, among your people, perhaps not. She reached out and touched the heartstone I still held, her fingers brushing against mine. Among mine, they are the same. To truly see someone, to recognize their magnificence, that is the beginning of binding. The words merely give voice to what the soul already knows. And if I refuse, if I choose death instead, her hand withdrew, the warmth faded. Then you will die at dawn, she said, and I will wait another 30 years, another 60, another 100. Something flickered in her eyes, pain, carefully controlled. I have been waiting my entire life for someone to see me, Ambassador Cole. Not my crown, not my power. Me. She turned and walked toward the door. Dawn comes in 6 hours, she said without looking back. Choose wisely. The door sealed behind her, and I was left holding a heartstone that pulsed with the rhythm of a princess's lonely heart, wondering if I had the courage to answer it. I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat on the balcony, watching the moon's descend and the first hints of dawn paint the horizon in shades of violet and gold. The heartstone sat on the table behind me, its pulse steady and unwavering. I thought about Earth, about the mission that had brought me here, the mining rights that would save billions from energy poverty. I thought about my training, my years of preparation, the careful diplomatic dance I had been taught to perform. None of it had prepared me for this. A commotion in the corridor drew my attention. Voices raised in anger, one of them human. The door shimmered, and a figure burst through. Commander Sarah Chen, my security attaché, her face flushed with fury, and her uniform disheveled from what looked like a physical altercation. Ambassador, she gasped. I've been trying to reach you for hours. The Villery blocked all. She stopped, taking in my expression. What happened? What did they do to you? Nothing. I rose from my chair. Sarah, how did you get in here? I may have threatened to detonate our ship's reactor in the palace courtyard. She shrugged. They decided diplomatic immunity applied after all. Despite everything, I smiled. Chen was nothing if not direct. You need to leave, she said. Now. Before they change their minds. I've got a shuttle waiting. I can't leave. Marcus, I spoke the words of claiming. I watched her face shift from confusion to horror as she processed the implications. I have until dawn to answer. If I run, it's an act of war. If you stay, you're either dead or married to an alien princess. She grabbed my arm. Think about what you're saying. Think about Earth. About the mission. I am thinking about it. I gently removed her hand. If I die here, the treaty dies with me. But if I accept a binding, Sarah, the Villery don't just make contracts. They make bonds. The princess's husband would have full negotiating authority on behalf of Earth. Every mining right, every trade agreement, it would all be secured through the bond. Chen stared at me. You can't be serious. The heart wants what it wants, Commander. I looked back at the heartstone, still pulsing on the table. And apparently, my heart spoke before my brain could stop it. That's not. She stopped herself, studying me with new eyes. You're not just doing this for the treaty, are you? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. The door shimmered again, and this time a full contingent of guards entered, followed by the princess herself. She looked at Chen with cold assessment. The human female will return to her vessel, the princess said. The ambassador's choice is his alone. Chen stepped in front of me. I'm not leaving without him, Sarah. I put my hand on her shoulder. It's okay. Go back to the ship. Contact Earth. Let them know what's happening. But don't interfere. Marcus! That's an order, Commander. For a long moment she held my gaze. Then, slowly, she nodded. If they hurt you, she said quietly, I'll glass this entire planet. I know. I squeezed her shoulder. That's why I trust you to wait. The guards escorted her out. The princess watched her go with an expression I couldn't quite read. She cares for you, the princess said. More than duty requires. She's my friend. And she's protective. As am I. The princess turned to face me fully. Dawn approaches, Ambassador. Have you made your choice? I looked at her, really looked, the way I had in the throne room when everything had started. She stood before me, in armor again, but this time I saw past it. I saw the weight of a crown she had never asked for. I saw 30 years of waiting, of hoping, of watching others find what she could not. I saw someone who was terrified that I would choose death over her. I have a condition, I said. Her eyes narrowed. You are not in a position to make demands. Not a demand. A request. I walked to the table and picked up the heartstone. Among my people, binding marriage is built on more than recognition. It's built on knowledge, understanding, time. Dada. You wish to delay. I wish to court you. I held up the heartstone, letting its light play across my fingers, properly, with intention. I want to know who you are beyond your crown. I want you to know who I am beyond my confusion. I met her burning eyes. If I'm going to be yours, I want to choose it. Not because I stumbled into sacred words, but because I understand what they mean. The silence stretched between us. I could feel the guards tensing, preparing for her rejection, for my execution. Then the princess did something I hadn't expected. She laughed. It wasn't mocking or cruel. It was surprised, genuine, the sound of someone encountering something truly unexpected. Her hand came up to cover her mouth, her eyes wide with what looked like delight. You impossible creature, she said. 200 years of protocol, and you ask me to court you. I'm asking to court you, I corrected. If you'll allow it. She crossed the distance between us in 3 strides. She was so close I could feel the heat radiating from her skin, could see the individual stars that seemed to swim in the depths of her eyes. Among my people, she said softly, courtship is a declaration of serious intent. It is a promise to pursue the bond with full dedication. It can only be requested once, and it can only be granted by the one who is claimed. Then I'm requesting it. Seriously. With full dedication. She studied my face for a long moment. Then she reached out and closed my fingers around the heartstone. I grant your request, Marcus Cole of Earth. Her voice was formal, but something warm burned beneath the words. You will have your courtship. But know this, you have made a promise now. One that cannot be broken. I understand. You don't, she said. But you will." She stepped back, and the warmth retreated with her. "Your people will be notified that the crisis has been resolved. The treaty negotiations will continue, and you will remain in the palace as my intended." "For how long?" She smiled that predator's smile again, but this time it held something else. Anticipation, perhaps. Eagerness. "Until I am satisfied that you truly see me," she said. "Or until one of us surrenders." She swept out of the room, her guards following, leaving me alone with a heartstone and the growing certainty that I had just made the most dangerous promise of my life. And I couldn't wait to see what came next. 3 months later, I finally understood what courtship meant to the Velori. It wasn't flowers and romantic dinners, though there were versions of both. It wasn't love letters or whispered promises, though those came too. Velori courtship was a battle, a constant, exhilarating war of wills, intellect, and revelation. The princess, she had finally allowed me to call her, tested me daily. She challenged me to debates on philosophy, on governance, on the nature of the universe. She took me hunting in the crystal forests outside the capital, where the prey was fast and clever, and the slightest mistake could be fatal. She showed me the darkest chapters of her people's history, and watched my face for judgment. And in turn, she demanded the same from me. I told her about Earth's wars, our genocides, our capacity for cruelty and selfishness. I showed her footage of our worst moments and explained why they had happened. I didn't make excuses. I didn't pretend we were better than we were. She appreciated the honesty. The Velori valued truth above almost everything else. But it was the small moments that truly built the bridge between us. The afternoon she found me in the library, struggling to read a Velori text on quantum mechanics, and sat beside me for 3 hours, explaining concepts in patient detail. The evening I cooked her an Earth meal, badly, but with genuine effort, and she ate every bite without complaint. The night her father took a turn for the worse, his ancient body finally failing, and she came to my room at midnight, seeking not comfort, but simply presence. We sat on the balcony together, watching the moons, and she told me about her mother who had died centuries ago, about the loneliness of being heir to an empire that expected perfection, about the fear that she would rule alone, unloved, until time itself forgot her name. I listened. I didn't try to fix it or offer platitudes. I just listened. When dawn came, she looked at me with something new in her eyes, not the burning stars of our first meeting, but something warmer, something like home. "You're not what I expected," she said. "Neither are you." She smiled. "Is that a compliment?" "It's the truth." I reached out and took her hand. Her fingers were longer than mine, stronger, but they fit. "You're magnificent, Seralith. Not because of your crown or your power or your people's might. Because of who you are. The woman who waits. The princess who gives choices. The ruler who values truth above flattery." Her hand tightened around mine. "You see me," she whispered. "I see you." The word hung between us, heavy with meaning. This time, I spoke it with full intention. This time, I knew exactly what it meant. "The courtship is complete," Seralith said. "You have satisfied my conditions, and you've satisfied mine." I stood, still holding her hand. "I know you now. Not completely. That will take years, maybe centuries. But I know enough to be certain." "Certain of what?" I reached into my pocket and pulled out the heartstone she had given me months ago. I had carried it every day since, felt its pulse against my chest, let it remind me of what was at stake. Now, I held it out to her. "Among my people," I said, "when someone wants to bind themselves to another, they give a gift. A symbol of their commitment." I pressed the heartstone into her palm, closing her fingers around it. "This is yours. It always was. I'm just returning it." With interest. Seralith stared at the stone, then at me. For a moment she looked almost lost, a woman who had waited 30 years for something she had never truly believed would come. "Marcus," she said, "are you certain? This is forever. Among my people, binding cannot be undone. I know. You will age while I remain young. You will die while I continue. There will be pain. I know." I cupped her face in my hands, feeling the warmth of her skin, seeing my own reflection in her starlit eyes. There's an old earth saying, "Better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all." I don't know how many years we'll have, but I know I want every one of them. She made a sound, something between a laugh and a sob, and pulled me close. The kiss was unlike anything I had experienced. Valori passion was intense, overwhelming, like being caught in a star-going supernova. But beneath the fire, there was tenderness. Care d'wife. Controlled strength of someone who could break me but chose instead to hold me gently. When we finally separated, both breathing hard, Cyrilith pressed her forehead against mine. "The binding ceremony will be held at the next moon convergence," she said. 3 weeks from now. The entire empire will witness. I should probably warn Earth. She laughed, that genuine, surprised laugh that I had grown to love. "Your Commander Chen has been threatening to glass the planet if anything happens to you. Perhaps you should reassure her. I'll tell her it's a happy glassing-free occasion. See that you do." She kissed me again, lighter this time. "I have announcements to make. Treaties to finalize. A father to inform." She paused. "He will be pleased. He always said I needed someone who would challenge me. I plan to challenge you for the rest of my life. I'm counting on it." She pulled away, but not before pressing the heartstone back into my hands. "Keep it," she said. "It beats for you now." Then she was gone, sweeping out of the room with the grace of a woman who had just claimed her future. I stood on the balcony, holding the heartstone, watching the suns rise over the crystal city. Somewhere below, I knew diplomats were scrambling, protocols were being rewritten, and history was being made. But up here in this moment, there was only the pulse of a heartstone in my palm and the memory of starlit eyes. I had come to this world to negotiate a mining treaty. I was leaving it with an empire, and a princess who was, without question, the most impressive thing I had ever seen. End.